Hi there, you are listening to the Guitar Speak podcast, the show produced in Sydney, Australia, where I speak to leading guitarists and guitar figures from all around the world. My name is Matt Wakeling, and thank you so much for joining me. Now today, in episode number 92, we speak to Steve Kilbey of The Church, an iconic Australian band that have enjoyed over 30 years of success in a fantastic career. Now Steve joins me today to talk about a show he is being part of called The Ones We Love, celebrating REM, the hits from 1982 to 1992. And this show features an all-star lineup with Jeff Martin from the Tea Party, Steve, of course, from The Church, Ron Espino from Died Pretty, Trish Young from The Clouds, Alana Russack from The Hummingbirds, and some other fantastic Australian musicians, all celebrating the work of REM. So it was very cool to speak to Steve about that. And we also spoke about the 30th anniversary of The Church's album Starfish, which featured the hit Under the Milky Way, and the whole album was a killer. And there's a bunch of shows happening in Australia and throughout the States to celebrate that milestone. So I caught Steve on an unseasonably beautiful winter's day in Sydney. He was about to take a swim over at Coogee Beach, but before he did that, he spoke with me. So here's our interview. Steve Kilbey, welcome to the Guitar Speak podcast.
Thank you. Glad I'm here.
Now we're here to talk about, a few things, but principally The Ones We Love, celebrating REM, which is a really great looking show featuring yourself and some fantastic Australian vocalists celebrating, REM's back catalogue. How did this gig come about, or this series of gigs?
Well, they rang me up and asked me, and the band are a really good band. I've already done the Cure thing with them.
Oh, okay,
great. So they're a great band. They're sort of members. Most of them are ex-members of Glide.
Okay, great.
So I first met them when I did the Glide tributes, because I used to say how much I used to always be saying that. And then also a funny thing happened with me is that when I started off in music with The Church, so like 40 years ago with The Church, I was sort of like a bass player and a songwriter, but I really wasn't much of a singer. I knew I wasn't much of a singer, and I didn't expect myself to be much of a singer, and I didn't expect the audience to think I was much of a singer, and I didn't think much about my singing, and I just sort of did what I could with what I thought I had. And so sort of all this time later, it interests me to think that people want me to, as a singer, like devoid of my songs and stuff, that I would just be asked to sing other people's stuff. And it started with the Triffids. And I did the Triffids, and then I've done so many now. I'm sort of available as a gun for hire as a vocalist.
That's great.
I've done Bowie and Jeff Buckley and Leonard Cohen and the Go-Betweens, and so many I can't think of them all. And the Cure one, that was great. So when this crowd ring me up and ask me to do it, I'm kind of interested. I'm very interested in doing it, see if I can bring something to it.
Sure. I mean, all those artists you're mentioning, Bowie, The Cure, the Triffids, you've got such a characterful voice. It's no wonder you're slotting into these different things and being asked to interpret the stuff.
Look, I do have a characterful voice, but it's not a great voice per se, and I don't have a great range either. So it's sort of like, it's my voice, and I don't sing like anybody else, but it's still a challenge sometimes to sing other these people's songs. When I did David Bowie, I had to get everything lowered down 3 semitones from where he was singing it.
Yeah.
So not that that's not really here nor there, but I don't have a huge range. So it's going to be interesting to see if I can actually sing all of these songs.
Sure.
The first rehearsal's on Sunday.
Awesome.
I'll have to, So it's kind of a challenge.
Yeah. Do you know what songs you're singing on yet? Or I guess you know. Are you allowed to divulge what you're singing?
Well, I do know. I have been told which ones they are. I
Yeah,
haven't started doing my homework yet.
sure.
I'm doing Driver 8,
Oh yeah,
and
great.
I'm doing The One I Love,
Yeah, great.
which is the biggie, I guess. Is that the biggie? Seeing it's called The Ones We Love.
I think so. I think it's the title
I
track.
guess so. Well, I'm doing the big one, the
That's
big
cool.
Kahuna.
Nice.
Yeah,
How did you decide who sang which songs? Because there's some great vocalists joining in as well, of course.
yeah. Well, they just assigned them to me. They just said we want you to do these ones, and Paul, the musical director that I've worked with a few times now, he kind of knows what I can do with my voice. So he sort of picked the ones that he thought would be most suitable for me to sing.
And it's interesting, REM, their first album came out probably a couple of years after the Church's first album. So in some ways, your careers have sort of paralleled chronologically at least until they wrapped up. What's it about REM that resonates with you in particular?
Um, I'm approaching this more like I'm pretty neutral towards REM.
Hmm.
And I've never been a huge fan. And I'm more interested in applying myself to this and seeing what I can do with it. I'm not doing it because I was a huge fan.
Sure, sure.
Um, Pretty much like when I did Leonard Cohen. I wasn't sort of a massive Leonard Cohen fan, but I wanted to sort of see if I could sing the songs. I sort of respect REM. I respect them. I certainly envy them their huge success, but I sort of not. It's not one of those ones like Bowie where you're sort of like, oh God, please let me sing it. It's more like it's more like I'm wondering what I can. It's an interesting challenge. Something. It's good to. It's like being asked to if you're an actor and you always play villains, and then someone says, "Hey, how would you like to play a hero?" And you go, "Oh, okay, I don't normally do that, but I'm going to give it my best. And maybe in doing this, I will find a new appreciation of REM and their words and their songs, and because I still don't know a real lot about them other than the kind of big hits they had.
Did you find with the Leonard Cohen gig that you came out of that with a different appreciation for the material?
I think I did, yeah, yeah. I did, yeah, definitely. You do when you've got to learn the words and you've got to think about them, and then you've got to represent them to an audience and kind of give them your own spin and your own slant. I think you learn a lot when you sing somebody's song, and you have to learn to sing it. And you might think you know a song. I was a big fan of the Triffids. I thought I knew their songs, but when it came to singing them, I didn't know them nearly as well as I thought I did, and I had to learn them properly, and it's a whole different thing. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that aspect.
Very cool. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, there's a difference between singing along to something in the car and actually
There is.
having to
I
nail it on the show.
Now you think it's the same thing, wouldn't you? But it isn't. It really isn't and things aren't where you thought they were when you're the only singer. When you know the other guys singing along in the car, and you know the singer on the record is going to come in a certain spot, you sort of but when that isn't there and you're actually just singing them on your own, it's it's not as always easy as you think to know where you are and which bit you're up to and how many choruses there are before it goes to middle eight, and then there's a 5 bar break or something. You've got to you really got to learn it and inhabit it in a new way.
Do you see any common ground, maybe, I don't know, aesthetically or otherwise, between REM and the church? Like, to me, I hear there's it's a different kettle of fish, I guess, but there's still a sense of melancholia and the dreamy in some of the
In that
material.
sense, yeah, a bit of melancholia and dreaminess.
Hmm.
Um, People, there were a lot of. It's weird for me because a long time ago, a lot of people were writing stuff like, "Oh, the Church of Australia's answer to REM,"
Right.
and nothing could be further from the truth. Um, we weren't Australia's answer to anything, and certainly not them. So I sort of, when I know it wasn't their fault, but this is how it works in music. When you start getting compared to someone that you don't want to be compared to, you kind of like you tend to steer clear of them a bit.
Uh huh.
So I
Sure.
I don't really know a lot about them. I haven't really listened to their albums. Only heard the singles. I know they are melancholic. They're more direct than the Church, and they weren't. I don't think not as nearly as. But maybe on their albums they were. But the things that I heard aren't sort of as musically adventurous. They sort of, and plus they only have one guitarist.
Yeah, sure.
So they don't have all that kind of that stuff we had with the two guitars, with all the overtones and undertones, and they we're into a lot of guitar trickery and gadgets, and they're kind of got a pretty simple, straightforward kind of thing going.
Sure, yeah. I can see some similarities between your guitarist and Pete Buck, but definitely, yeah, having two players, there's all that interplay that you guys
Yeah,
took full advantage of for
that's
sure.
and that's what we were all about
Uh-huh.
musically, was the interplay, all the delay. Both guitarists had so much delay on their guitars that notes were floating around for minutes, and then they're all reacting with all the other notes, and we're getting all this kind of like an orchestra playing in the background that's not really there, but the guitars seemed to be creating it. Whereas, look, I read an interview with Peter Buck, and he said, I'm a very simple guitar player. He said, kids come down the front to watch me play, and I think, hey, kid, nothing to see here, just C and D.
Yeah,
And he's right. He's just playing C and D. He's just playing the most simple, basic, ordinary kind of things, like sort of like Creedence Clearwater Revival, like just straightforward kind of rock, but with very little effects and stuff.
yeah,
But still, it's what they came up with was great. I'm not saying that, but
sure, sure,
they didn't have all the guitar stuff that we had, not at all.
sure. Well, hey, talking about the Church, this year also marks 30 years since the iconic Starfish album came out
That's
in
that's correct. Yes.
88. Yeah, excellent. And you guys are playing a bunch of shows to celebrate that. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. Okay. 30 years. Where did it go? Yeah, in 1987, we made this album. In 1988 in LA, it came out and was kind of our most successful record, and sold, over 1 million copies. And 30 years on, somebody's had this genius idea. 30th anniversary. We've got so many records out that every year's an anniversary for one
I
record or
bet.
another.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah, that's great. It's
That's
like
cool.
every year we can go. Next year can be such and such as anniversary record
Sure.
came out
Yeah.
20 or 30 or 15 or 10 years ago. So it's a great premise, and I like the idea of playing an album in its entirety. I
Mhm.
like that. I like that people know exactly what they're going to get. The band know exactly what they're going to do, and we just sort of got to do that with a bit more thump. I think just produce the album exactly as it was, just have a bit more power.
Sure. Very cool. That'd be great. Can't wait to see those shows. When do they come about?
It's Is it late November or December? Which city are you in?
Yeah, I'm in Sydney.
Yeah, in Sydney. That's right. We said that before,
Yeah.
didn't we? Um, it's at the State Theatre. I think it's late November, early December.
Yeah, great.
One of those. Yeah,
Very
yeah.
cool. Very cool. I will keep our eyes out and on the band website. All those details are there. And I see after this run of the REM shows, you guys are heading over to the States for a couple of shows. You've still got some business over there.
Yeah, we're doing a month. We're doing a month in America.
Nice. So that doorway has stayed open over the years, the US thing?
It's always stayed open.
Yeah,
Like
cool.
Under the Milky Way and Starfish was sort of, we were kind of an underground cult band before that.
Yeah.
So Starfish wasn't totally rags to riches. And our album before that, Heyday, had done pretty well in America. But then Starfish really took off, and we were kind of, so we had we're sort of like somewhere between a, normal band and a cult band, I guess.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. That seems, is that a good place to be?
I reckon it is, yeah.
Yeah.
it's like it's longevity. I mean, we've been touring America now for 34 years, so it seems to be paying off. We sort of we just quietly go along playing to our audience, no matter what phase comes and goes. We've survived so many phases. We've outlived grunge.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, if you formed now and said we're a grunge band, people would laugh, wouldn't they? And yet, it's grunge came along and almost wiped us out.
Yeah.
But we kept going. So we just keep doing what we do. And America likes that, I guess.
Yeah, sure. That's awesome. Well, hey, Steve, thank you so much for your time
Thank
today.
you, mate.
It's been great chatting. I know you've got some other press to do before you get a swim at Coogee. So have a great day and all the best for the shows.
Okay.
There you go, Steve Kilbey. That was super interesting, and what an articulate guy. I could have spoken to him all day, but I was very grateful for the window that we got. So talking about the ones we love, celebrating REM 1982 to 1992. Those shows are coming up very soon in Brisbane, Melbourne and Sydney. Check your guides for that. And also the church celebrating 30 years of the Starfish record. And there'll be a tour around Australia and parts of the United States later this year as well. All right, good stuff going on. Hey, how interesting was it? When I think of grunge bands, destroying everything, I think of the hair metal bands that got crushed in the grunge wave of the early 90s. I hadn't thought that, the so-called indie bands, like the Church or REM or other bands of that ilk might have felt a bit of the downward pressure as well from the grunge. Wow, very interesting perspective. All right, hey, it's time to go. My name's Matt Wakeling. You've been listening to the Guitar Speak podcast. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to catch you next time. Bye now.